What's the most unfair way someone twisted your words? I wasn't supposed to be in my dad's office, but I was just helping him clear out some shelves after he asked me to bring down old boxes for shredding. I opened one labeled tax docs and expected dusty receipts and bank slips, but instead, I found my childhood journal. I froze because I hadn't seen it since I was maybe 11, and I thought it was lost or maybe thrown out during the divorce, but here it was sitting in my dad's office after all these years. But that didn't make sense. My parents divorced when I was 7, and I stayed with my mom, and the journal should have been with her, so how did he get it? I got curious, so I opened it, and the first few pages were just innocent scribbles and notes about hating broccoli and how my goldfish died, but then I turned the page and saw something worse. A long entry from when I was maybe 9 or 10. I'd written about a fight I had with my mom, and I called her weird and crazy and wrote that she yells a lot and makes me scared sometimes, and I missed being with dad. I remembered the night I wrote that. She was exhausted and had just lost her job and rent was late, but I didn't understand any of that then. On paper, it looked really bad, so I put the journal back in the box and closed it and didn't mention anything because I figured it was just something he kept, so no big deal. But 2 weeks later, my mom called me and she sounded shaky, like she'd been crying for hours, and she told me my dad had filed for full custody of my younger sister, and he claimed she wasn't safe at mom's house, and then she told me what he'd submitted to the court, a typed up statement quoting words from my journal. I felt like throwing up and told her it wasn't possible because I'd never given it to him, but she didn't blame me. She was just heartbroken. He told the court my journal showed a clear pattern of emotional instability in the home, and he cherry-picked lines from when I was a scared kid and used them as evidence. But my mom's lawyer objected and said it was hearsay taken out of context. But the damage was done, and even though I was legally an adult now, I still got called in to testify. I stood there and tried to explain to a room full of strangers that I was a child when I wrote those things, and I was scared and confused, and my mom was doing the best she could, and she didn't deserve this. I told the truth, but my dad just sat there calm, like he'd planned this from the beginning, and then it hit me. He'd taken that journal on purpose years ago and not by accident, and maybe even during the divorce when he was packing boxes and pretending to move out cleanly. He held onto it and kept it like a weapon, just waiting for the day he could use it. After court, my mom looked so worn out because she didn't win full custody, but she didn't lose everything. The judge ordered a shared arrangement, but the trust was gone. A week later, I drove back to my dad's place and didn't tell him I was coming, and went straight to the basement where he kept all the old boxes and found the journal again. But this time, I didn't put it back, I took it. I brought it to my apartment and I sat on my bed with a pen and sticky notes, and for every single entry, I wrote a note next to it explaining what was actually going on. This was after my mom worked a double shift and fell asleep on the couch. This was the day she found out my school had suspended me for fighting, and I blamed her. I mailed the entire journal back to my mom with the notes, and she called me crying and told me she read every page. Then she told me she was sorry I had to write that as a kid, but she was glad I understood now. A few weeks later, my dad asked if I wanted to come over for my sister's birthday, but I told him no, and he asked why, and I told him because you made me part of something that wasn't mine to begin with, and I wouldn't ever let him do that again, but he never answered.